why are we enforcing this when it's causing so much pain? And you're told constantly as a witness that, life is so precious to Jehovah, so precious to God. But then I would think, if it's so precious, then why are we allowing ourselves not to take blood and just dying? Made up some excuse, because how can I explain it to somebody that I just saw the mechanisms of like control in real time? Like, there was no way for me to put that into words, and obviously if I start
snapped.
yeah, and I'm just thinking, I'm gonna lose everybody. I'm gonna lose my friends, I'm gonna lose my family. And it's hard to try to explain my mindset, because they tell you, if you find out about somebody's sin and don't urge them to go to the elders, and you don't tell, that you now carry their sin. But he emailed me and says, sums up, I was in shock yesterday, but I do believe that the governing body is leading this organization, and it's clear to me that you've never had the truth in you, and I have to protect my family from you, and I hope you can be brothers again one day.
Hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Mitch Kuniko. I am the owner of this channel called Cult Audit, and I'm a former high-up leader in a South Korean doomsday cult called the World Messiah Church of God. Today I got a special guest. His name is Isaiah. Isaiah is in a cousin cult, I would call it, the Jehovah Witnesses. They have many different beliefs and many different doctrinal beliefs, but many of the things that we went through, such as like not celebrating holidays, extreme preaching, so on and so forth, both of our groups are very known for this and for our doomsday prophecies. So I'm going to hand it over to my friend Isaiah over here, and he's going to introduce himself, and then we're going to begin with his story.
All right, yeah. So my name is Isaiah. I grew up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, like Mitch mentioned. What that group is they started in the mid to late 1800s with the leader named Charles Taze Russell. He actually started the movement. It was called the Bible Students. And what they really focused on were certain doctrines that went against mainstream Christianity. The Bible Students considered themselves Christians, but said teachings such as hellfire, teachings of the soul being eternal, things like that. They really rejected those mainstream doctrines, and they really focused on what they call the preaching work, door-to-door ministry. As the Bible student movement progressed, Charles Taze Russell actually passed away, and Joseph Rutherford took over. And you can actually read a lot of the letters between the other higher ends in the Bible student movement, and many noted it as a hostile takeover. Rutherford was a lawyer, and he was able to take over the organization, and a lot of the doctrines the organization has now is because of Rutherford. So it was the Bible student movement, and then Rutherford was responsible for it now being called Jehovah's Witnesses. That's why you hear that name, is because of him. A lot of the doctrines the witnesses have is because of him. And what you'll find is with Jehovah's Witnesses, in their name, what is that? Jehovah. They say that is the name of the Christian God. It's Psalms 83:18, which mentions the name Jehovah, and they will go door to door and show that to a lot of Christians in their own Bible, and you will find that name in a lot of Christian Bibles, even if it's like especially King James Version. And witnesses really pride themselves on that. We have the true name of God. We bear the true name of God. So that's kind of the history of the witnesses. It's skimming over a little bit, but it's definitely evolved over time, and it keeps changing. And I eventually was brought out of that. I woke up. I committed my whole life to it. Like I mentioned in my waking up video, I thought it was the truth. I enjoyed my experience in it, and I was a pioneer, which a pioneer is someone that dedicates a certain amount of time per month of door-to-door ministry. And I was a ministerial servant, which is equivalent to like a deacon in a normal church, so to speak. So it wasn't like I was, just there hanging around. I really believed. But once I started waking up and doing research on the doctrine and seeing the inconsistencies, even internally from the own leaders of what they were saying, that's when I decided that I no longer could be part of this group. So I think it's important, like Mitch is doing here, and we talked about this a little bit before the interview, but being able to actually use your voice and speak up about these things. For years we used our voice to push this propaganda to bring people into the group, and now our voices are so powerful we can warn others and bring awareness around the dangers of cults.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Isaiah said, the biggest thing is just to spread awareness so people can understand about these groups, because there's no education given about high control groups that are out there in high school. There's no education on them in college. So people, they're just kind of just thrown out into the world and not understanding there's groups out there that if you get sucked into them, it will control and take over your life completely, financially, your time, your future, um, even your own thoughts will be transformed through brainwashing and coercion. So this is why we're doing it, to spread awareness, just so people can understand what is a Jehovah Witness cult and experience Isaiah's story. Of course, there's many videos about people speaking out on the Jehovah Witness group. However, the more the merrier, because the more people that speak out, the more this content gets out, the more people will find maybe this video, and it will help them either leave or it'll spread awareness to people to understand what this group is, so they can decide if they want to join a group like this or not. So I'm so glad for Isaiah to be here. We were both a part of high controlling groups, couldn't celebrate any holidays. We had to go preach all the time for what we thought was the truth, get rejected, and just, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. But again, I think Isaiah could agree. It's, even though we're speaking out about this, we're not saying that, oh my gosh, we're just our whole entire life inside these organizations or the time we spent in them, it was all terrible. No, I mean, I had a lot of fun times in my group. I have a lot of good memories. People I miss. I got shunned when I left, so like I miss these people because I knew them every day. I worked with them every day at the church. But I'm not going to say everything was bad. But when you start waking up and you seeing they've been lying to us the whole time about either doctrines or their history and everything, it really changes your mindset on what's actually going on in these organizations. And that's what Isaiah's going to be getting into. He's going to be getting into his story, kind of how he was raised in it, some things that maybe have happened in it, and things that started to wake Isaiah up in the Jehovah Witness group. So I'll hand it over to you from here, Isaiah, and you can let everybody kind of know your story.
Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up in this organization called the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was a third generation, so my grandparents were, and then my parents. My mother was raised as one, and my father was a convert, and then me and my sibling were witnesses. As I mentioned in my other video, and I tell people, and like Mitch just said, I have fond memories looking back as being a witness. I believed it was the truth. I met a lot of good people, and you do have this really large sense of camaraderie. That's not the right way to say that. Camaraderie. There we
I
go.
think so, yeah.
Yeah, a sense of community. We'll say that, and it's super strong. But the dangerous part about that, of why it's so strong, is because it's not just the love and the connection with people, but it's because the group is telling you you cannot associate with people outside of the group. They are bad association. They're going to pull you away from God. They're going to bring you essentially into destruction. So growing up as a child, even though I can look back with fond memories, there were moments where I wanted to hang out with people worldly. That's the term witnesses use for ones that aren't witnesses. Anyone that's not a Jehovah's Witness is considered worldly. I couldn't hang out with worldly people. If I wanted to go to a friend from school and I wanted to hang out with them, I would essentially have to make an excuse and say, "Oh, we're working on a school project," even though we're just hanging out. Now, my parents were pretty lax with me like playing outside with my neighborhood friends, but I wasn't doing sleepovers, or I wasn't going over to friends' house to just play video games. If I were going to people's houses that weren't witnesses, I had to have a reason, so to speak. So yeah, I do have fond memories of it, but growing up, it was hard to balance that, because I'm a people person. I love connecting with people, and it was a struggle a little bit of, okay, these are my friends. We were told these are your acquaintances. These aren't really your friends. But besides that, I kept pushing forward, kept advancing in the group. and I found myself in a position, like I mentioned, a ministerial servant and soon to be an elder, which an elder is a priest. I'm trying to equate it to, church
Yeah,
verbiage, but
that's hard sometimes with the church verbiage because
yeah.
you guys use the word pioneer. Some groups use evangelism. Some
Yeah.
groups use proselytizing. Our group use preaching. There is some words that are in common. Worldly people.
Yeah.
With us, we shouldn't associate with worldly people because they can lead us away from the truth, is what we'll
Hmm.
also call it. Um,
Yes.
Meaning they're just our acquaintances. They should be used to preach to. If you're gonna do any type of interaction, it should only either be for work or to preach to. So that's very funny, the similarities in that sense. But we'll let you continue, Isaiah.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I've been seeing that with a lot of different high control groups have that similar words. But yeah, I became this person that was super I'll say indoctrinated, but at the time I just was on fire, if you want to call it. I loved what I
Yeah.
was doing, and I thought it was the best way to live my life. And as a witness, you are reminded of why you're told why this is the truth. You're told the preaching work, like your group also does or did, and you're said, oh, look, we are the only group in the world that is doing a worldwide ministry, which that's what I was told, which I'm sure you probably were told something similar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're told this group is the only group that has the true love. This group is the only group that is anti-war or that doesn't do holidays. So with all these combining things, this shows that we are the one true religion. So you're constantly told this, you're reinforced this thought, and anytime something bad happens to you or someone mistreats you that's worldly or you see something that another church does that's negative, it reinforces that belief like, oh, okay, that is true. I am in the one true religion. All these other religions must be false. All these other people must be bad. And so as I grew into this framework of thinking, and then I eventually moved out, I found myself connecting with people outside of the group. And even when I explained to them my beliefs, they respected them. They didn't try to pull me away. They didn't try to get me to do horrible things and try to force you to sin. Um, and it really shocked me because again, you're told your whole life, bad association spoils useful habits. Anyone that doesn't uphold the standards of God, upholds the standards of Jehovah, is going to lead you into a sinful state. And to backtrack a little bit, you mentioned earlier how, we believe that people should have the free will to choose. When I say we, I mean me and you. Witnesses will say, yeah, you have the free will to choose. But the problem with that is they will harp on other churches like the Catholic Church or any Orthodox Christian church that does infant baptism. And they say that is so wrong to do infant baptism. But within the Jehovah's Witness organization, you are pressured to be baptized I've seen kids as young as 8 years old be baptized. And it's not much better, or it's not any better than infant baptism because I got baptized at 15, and that was old. Like when I was 12, my best friend got baptized, and everyone's looking at me like, "Okay, when are you gonna do it? When are you gonna do it?" And there's that pressure. The difference is between if we're talking infant baptism and the witness baptism is at least with infant baptism, it's more seen as like this is a blessing for the child, and that child still has a decision to decide for themselves. When you're baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses and you're 10, 11, 12 years old, you're in a binding contract with the organization. They baptize you and they tell you in your questions when you're in front of this large amount of people, do you recognize that this now represents you as part of God's one true organization, the Jehovah's Witness organization? So
So similar.
yeah, so you're now binded into the contract essentially, and then years later, I'm waking up and I'm like, oh my goodness. But now, if you try to leave, people, well, you got baptized. Think back to when you got, that's what I was told. Think back to when you got baptized and think about that time. But the difference is, I was a child. I didn't know the true doctrines. I didn't know both sides of things. And I think that people should be able to hear both sides of, of being a witness and not being a witness.
Exactly, and especially when you're growing up into it and everything like that. It's kind of like this is your community. It's kind of expected of you. I mean, you really don't have like any outside information. You're not even supposed to look up outside information, so you're supposed to trust the organization that you're the one true religion. Similar to us, our group did do infant baptisms. I mean, they would baptize people. We would baptize people within one day.
Wow.
That would like literally go on campus, preach to them, try to get them baptized that day. But you come to see a lot of them fall away, and then we would have like a baptism form, which we would use the baptism form as like, oh, you're writing your name into the book of life.
My God.
So by you filling this form out, you writing your name, saying you're never gonna attend any other church and that this is the only true church, you're signing your pretty much life away in the book of life. But if you ever leave, I mean, this book of life, this paper on earth, it's once that's blotted out, you're blotted out in the book of life in heaven because what's bound on earth is what's bound in heaven. So that's kind of our gist on it. But it's so funny just still hearing these same words, same similarities, worldly people. One true religion, that we're the only truth. No, we're the people you can trust. Nobody else.
Yeah, it is really interesting to hear that. And it when you're in it, you really believe this in the bottom of your heart. You mentioned that you were in it for 6 years, right? So you were a
Yeah.
convert, essentially.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
convert into the World Messiah Church of God, and they're now getting more generational people in. They only came to the United States in 1997, so most people are converts, but there's some generational people now.
gotcha. Yeah, within the witness structure, you will definitely find converts. And what I noticed too, most I don't know how it is with your cult, but most converts that we would bring in or that we would focus on would be people in an emotional state, whether it be ones that just lost a loved one, someone that's going through financial troubles, and I would see that that was kind of a common reoccurrence of people either, like I said, emotionally struggling or they didn't have any direction in life because the
Uh-huh.
structure of the organization is very rigid, it's very black and white, and to someone that either is in a bad mental state or that has no structure, that's very appealing to them. Um,
For sure. I could see that in like with us, in some sense, yes, we would try to get those people, but our focus in some sense is same because we would focus on a lot of college students because they're still figuring out life, they're looking for community, stuff like that, and we try to fill that void for them. But our group was very weird in the sense we didn't want anybody with disabilities, we didn't want older
mm,
people, we
really?
didn't want people that are homeless because they can't do the gospel work. They can't go
Wow.
evangelize. So, very weird. But we would put on front groups to make it seem like we're helping the homeless or um, old timer homes and stuff like that. But it was only for PR. It wasn't to actually like to eventually lead these people to the one true religion, we can say.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really interesting. Um, yeah, witnesses basically they want everybody, everybody they can get. Yeah. So yeah, it's you bring these people into the group, and now for me, I most of my life as a witness, even though I did love it, you live in constant fear because I do call it a doomsday cult because one of the main doctrines and one of the strongest doctrines that keeps people in is the teaching of Armageddon or the last days. We're told that we live in the last days. Jesus told his followers that, you know, keep an eye out on earthquakes, reports of wars, famine, diseases, pestilences, and that's how you'll know that I'll be coming back. So we're told that actually we're in the last of the last of the last days. And essentially the belief is they've changed this a little bit, but for my whole life, this was the doctrine. For you to be part of God, to be saved, you have to be part of the Jehovah's Witness organization. As time goes on, the UN is actually going to be part of the group that attacks all religions. They're going to destroy religions. Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be the only group that actually is going to keep evangelizing, that keeps meeting. Then the UN is going to notice that and they're going to attack the witnesses. And as soon as they attack the witnesses full on, try to kill them, Jesus is going to come down with his 144,000, the anointed group, which the 144,000, that's another doctrine, but I'll get into that in a second. And kill
Yeah.
every single person except Jehovah's Witnesses. And then after that, you're going to go into a time period of 1,000 years where we're going to rebuild the earth. We're going to live forever. And then we're actually going to get younger. And then there's going to be a resurrection of everybody. So why that keeps so many people in is because you're told, unless you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses, if the so there's two phases: Great Tribulation, which is the phase where the UN starts to attack other religions, and then as soon as the UN attacks Jehovah's Witnesses, Armageddon starts, and that's when the destruction happens. You're told, if you are not a Jehovah's Witness when the Great Tribulation starts, you are going to die, and you'll be destroyed forever. So that's what keeps so many. So you're in that constant state of, if you sin, if you mess up, am I going to be destroyed?
Yeah, I feel you on that. I feel the same, very similar. Not with the UN and stuff, because our church is a part of the UN, which is just nuts. Also, yours was at a point until the members all found out. But that was funny.
Yeah.
But on that, like with the doomsday prophecies and Armageddon, there's such a strong doctrine to keep people in, honestly. And when you're the one true religion, and only through your religion, people can be saved and become the 144,000 or the great multitude. Yeah, it really keeps you in, because everybody else cannot be saved technically, if they're not a part of this religion. And we preach the same thing. You have to be a part of our religion. You have to keep the seal of God. You have to keep the Passover ceremony to receive God's holy flesh and blood, to receive salvation. I always found it very interesting, though, because our Passover ceremony, you guys call it the memorial of Jesus' death, I think. We call it the Passover. I just always found it weird that you guys literally passed over the bread and wine. Passover.
Yeah.
You passed over
Literally.
the bread and the wine. And I always found that interesting, because I was like, the Bible's like, oh, keep it, you have eternal life. At least that's what my church would teach. If you keep the bread and wine, you have the flesh and blood, you have eternal life. But then I'm like, but the Jehovah Witnesses, they're not even... I would always tell that to a Jehovah Witness.
Yeah.
Like when I would go and preach to them or evangelize.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have eternal life, right? How are you supposed to be saved? You're not even keeping the Passover. You're literally passing it over. So that's kind of how we would counter you guys on like your stuff with verses. But yeah, I'm assuming you guys use like Matthew 24 all the time, Daniel and Revelation. That's like your bread and butter, and it's the same as us.
Yeah. And regarding the Passover thing, it is a really weird doctrine, because like you said, at least from a biblical perspective, it's pretty clear that Jesus wanted his followers to partake. And in the early letters of the church, Paul was actually talking about, and he's addressing the congregation and saying, hey guys, partake of this. And he's talking about people partaking in it in an unworthy manner, and they're getting sick and even dying from it. So there's not even an inference where Jesus or Paul or any of the early church writers were saying, oh, only a small group is. The witnesses believe this because in Revelation, I think it's 7, it talks about the 144,000, and it says that these ones are sealed. And when you go through and read it, though, you'll see that it says where that number comes from. It takes the 12 tribes of Israel, 12,000. I think 12,000 times 12 is 144,000. Then it says all these are men, they're virgins. It mentions all these things, and if you ask a witness, they'll say, oh, that's figurative. Wait, shouldn't you have to be from the tribe of Israel to be 144,000? Oh, well, that's figurative. Well, do you have to be a virgin?
Spiritual Israel.
Yeah, exactly. It's spiritual Israel. Do you have to be a virgin? Well, it's spiritual virginity. Well, do you have to be a man? No, not really. You can be a woman. But then once you get to the 144,000, they say that's the literal part. Like this one little section amongst this big scripture.
Yeah, it's the same with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same.
Wow.
I mean, not in the sense of we have our 144,000, but yeah, it's all symbolic. I mean, it's spiritual Israel. It's not talking about the literal nation of Israel. It's spiritual. And it's a group of people that are going to be taken up to heaven alive. But the difference where we split off from Jehovah Witnesses is with the great multitude, because we believe all of us will go to heaven.
Oh,
But the difference is the 144,000, they don't get to suffer the Armageddon. They're just going to be taken up alive. They'll never experience death. But the great multitude, they're going to go through the destruction of the world. They're going to die, but they're still going to be saved and enter alive in the kingdom of heaven. But you guys have the interesting doctrine of coming back and living on the earth like after, which is so different from like I think almost majority of Christian denominations. So
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because it's pretty similar to what you said. Everything is the same. Like we witnesses believe that 144,000 won't deal with, great tribulation or Armageddon. They're going to be brought up, and then the great, we don't say the great multitude, but they'll say the great crowd. The great crowd is going to go through, and then yeah, they're going to live on earth forever. So yeah, it is such a weird there's so many doctrines like that within the witness organization that it's weird that so many people believe it, but it's because I will say to somebody that isn't well versed on the Bible or doesn't really doesn't have a deep theological belief system already, witnesses seem very like really true Bible readers
yeah,
because they can pick scriptures. I still
yep.
have scriptures in my head that I used over and over and over again, like Psalms 37, 10, and 11 talks
Hmm.
about how the meek's going to possess the earth. Revelation 21, 3 and 4 talks about how there's going to be no more tears or death or
Yeah,
crying. So to
yeah,
somebody that really doesn't know, you have someone
that's
coming up to your
crazy.
door and they're just quoting scripture, scripture, scripture.
Yep.
Look at this and jumping all over the Bible. And then
Hmm.
the person goes, oh, this person must have the truth.
Yeah,
You
I'll
know?
stop here one more point, and then I'll just let you get on with your story because there's
Okay,
so
I'm
many
sorry.
there's no, it's me. It's just funny. There's so many comparisons. I mean, like you're talking about, like it's appealing because you think these people know the Bible better than anybody.
Yeah.
Same as us. We're at the church every day studying the Bible, and then we're out evangelizing every day. So we just know verses like just Matthew. Like even though I'm not like that much into this stuff anymore, it's like it's engraved in my head, like Matthew 7:21 through 23. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom
Yeah.
of heaven, but only the one who does it will my Father. I know you guys know that verse too. And there's so many verses like this, and it's true. When you come up to people and then you seem very knowledgeable on the Bible.
Hmm.
There's this guy named Walter Martin who used to counter the cults. He has a book called Kingdom of the Countering the Kingdom of the Cults or something. But he explains that any cult member can usually put any Christian in a doctrinal pretzel
Absolutely.
because a lot of Christian churches, they also say that the cults are the unpaid dues of the church
Mm,
because the churches didn't actually ever theologically help their people enough to understand the Bible
yes.
and or know about cults. And because of that, cults will meet somebody that's been going to the church their whole life, but that person in that church has never really taught them the Bible. They don't really know any verses or the structures, just listening to a preacher every Sunday. And then they meet somebody like a Jehovah Witness or a person from the World Messiah Church of God, and we come up with the Bible. And it's like, oh my gosh, this person who's probably only like 20 years old knows more about the Bible than my pastor does.
Yeah.
And it comes off like that because we study the Bible so much. And a lot of people get sucked in just like that because they think, oh my gosh, this must be the truth. They know everything in the Bible. They know this part, this part. So
Hmm.
it's very interesting with our groups on that. And then the doomsday prophecies and everything like that. So I just wanted to make comparisons for the
Yeah.
viewer. So anybody that's watching, they can understand the World Messiah Church of God is very similar, and the Jehovah Witnesses is very similar as well to my group. They're both like cousin cults, I could say. Um, they have their differences in extremism, but they're both not good groups. So, other than that, Isaiah, please continue with your story. And sorry for cutting you off. I just think it's so interesting. There's so many comparisons between these groups.
Yeah. No need to apologize. I love hearing that because like there are some doctrinal differences, but like you said, there's so many similarities. I love hearing
Yeah.
that. So yeah, um and like I was the guy to be able to show to people and put people in that sort of pretzel of doctrine, like you said. And it seems like, oh, this person's so reasonable. They're such a Bible deep thinker. But the issue with that is when I was a witness and you are kind of told when you're going out to do this preaching work, okay, find people that are interested. Remember, they'll tell you even Jesus was rejected from his teaching. So if you find somebody that doesn't want to accept your the they you never would hear the word gospel, but except your preaching message that just wipe off the dust from your feet, like the scripture says. But the problem with like the structure of what you believed in is witnesses try to come off as these deep Bible readers, but they're not really reading the Bible and coming up to these conclusions themselves. They're taking the framework and the lens of the Watchtower, which the Watchtower Society is the actual like official name of the Jehovah's Witness organization. They're taking this lens, and every time you research a scripture or a question, you go through the organization. And we were even told that there's a danger of getting together in small groups and studying the Bible by yourself. Because if you study the Bible by yourself, you might actually be misled and fall into false worship, uh, which is just wild. You know, you
Crazy.
tell people, we had a book called "What Does the Bible Really Teach?" Um, and you would go through that book, and it'd be paragraphs of writings and writings and writings, and you would see that, okay, they have a scripture here, they have a scripture here, but then the rest of the paragraphs is an interpretation of Watchtower. So they try to come across as these really deep, knowledgeable people in the Bible, but essentially they're taking the interpretations of their group and forming it into what the Bible, is saying in these, scriptures. So,
Exactly.
so yeah, I eventually I started questioning when I was experiencing certain things like making friends outside of the organization and they weren't bringing me out. When I started questioning or really thinking about the implication of the blood doctrine. Now, the blood doctrine is something that I'm not sure if your group has this,
No,
but
we don't.
okay.
It's very interesting doctrine, very unique to you guys for sure.
Yeah, there's a mention in the Old Testament of not partaking of blood, and then in the New Testament as well. But most Christian denominations say, well, first of all, the Old Testament's void, but also in the New Testament, it talks about not eating it, but some scholars might say they were referring to blood worship or using blood in false worship. But regardless, the witness belief system is blood transfusions are unacceptable to God, to Jehovah. That if your family member, your wife, your husband, even your child, if they are in a place where they had an accident and they have low blood count, they cannot take a blood transfusion. And even, I believe it was during the 70s or 80s, they had a Watchtower or an Awake published. I don't remember the exact title, but it essentially said something like "Those who really obey Jehovah," and it had children on it, about 6 or 7 children. And as you go through the article, these are children that died, and they're being put up on this pedestal. Look how faithful these children are. They upheld Jehovah's morals and they upheld Jehovah's viewpoint on blood. So I was part of assisted in this group called HLC, which is the Healthcare Liaison Committee, and their main focus is the blood doctrine. When someone's in the hospital, they go and support that brother and sister, and they try to find alternatives. As a Jehovah's Witness, you carry around a no blood card in your wallet that says, "I do not partake blood." That way, if you ever get in an accident and you're unconscious, they don't force a blood transfusion on you. And I did it. Like I carried actually, I never carried the blood card. I never finished it. Something in me wouldn't do it, but I believed it. Like I told my parents I
Yeah.
don't want a blood transfusion if I ever get one. But once I started helping the HLC and hearing the interviews from the brothers and thinking about it, because I never had that experience with myself or any of my family members, so it was kind of one of those things where you just don't think about it. But once I actually heard that this was impacting people, we had someone in our community that died because of it. I started making me think like this is this is interesting. Like, why are we enforcing this? Um, why are we enforcing this when it's causing so much pain? And you're told constantly as a witness that life is so precious to Jehovah, so precious to God. But then I would think, if it's so precious, then why are we allowing ourselves not to take blood and just dying? So that's what really, things like that started making me question. And then, like I mentioned in my video, I had like this I think it was a panic attack, but I call it an out of body.
Please, yeah, please share this. This was crazy. Like when I was listening to it, I still remember where I was listening to all this, and I was like, I was put in your shoes. Like when I woke up, you literally sit and you're like, what's going like you're awake. Like you
Yeah.
had veils over your eyes this whole time.
Yeah.
Like you were running in it's called mass formation.
Mm,
It's a characteristics of what cults do and also what they do in war as well. It's called mass formation, but you
mm.
got out of that mass formation and you're like, whoa. But please explain this kind of story, what kind of led up fully to this. I know you had some events and then like how you were just like, whoa, you had this out of body experience. It was crazy when I heard it. So in your original story.
Yeah, yeah. So what led up to it was at this before this event, I was still in mentally. I still believed, but I told myself, okay, this is something that I've dedicated myself to, and I'm going to continue dedicating my life to. And I haven't even fully read the Bible. So I was like, I kind of felt like a hypocrite. It's kind of, and I would tell people, it's kind of like if I were gonna give you a review on a movie, but I only watched clips of the movie. I never watched the whole movie. Seemed hypocritical to me. So I decided I'm gonna read my Bible. So I started from Genesis, and immediately in Genesis, I have these questions, and I'm like, there's things happening within the Bible that we don't even believe within the doctrine of witnesses. So then I'm kind of in the state of what's going on. I meet this man at the door with another elder, and he answers the door, and we're having conversation. He's like, "Oh, you guys are Jehovah's Witnesses, right?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I have discussions with you guys, and I also talk online about the Bible." Now, when he said that, that shocked me because in my viewpoint and the viewpoint you're kind of given, I keep saying my viewpoint, but it really wasn't. It was the Watchtower viewpoint imposed on me and all the other believers
Yeah.
was that we are the only true Bible believers. We're the only ones that actually discuss this, and the rest of the world, they just show up to church and that's it. So when he said he was online and actually discussed the Bible, I was blown away. I was like, "What? What's going on?" And then we talked about, the divinity of Jesus, and he was like, "You guys basically believe he's a demigod, right?" And I didn't know what to say to that because now a demigod is someone that's half man, half God. So theologically, not really, but at the same time, we believe he's like a lesser God. So there's Jehovah the Father, he's the true God, and then Jesus, he's a God, but he's not the God. So I didn't know what to
Is that
say in
why
that
they
moment.
changed? Is that why they changed like John 1? Is
Yeah,
that where
John
you
1
kind of get
1.
it from? Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I didn't know what to say to that. And then the elder I was with, he said, kind of, yeah. And I was like, whoa, we believe that like Jesus is like just like another God that we have to believe in. Because as a witness, you have to believe you through Jesus, you pray in Jesus' name, but he's just another God. So that's the lead up. There's a lot of things going I'm wrestling with in my mind. I have a pioneer seminar. So about once or twice a year, pioneer seminars, as we mentioned, pioneers are people that dedicate a certain amount of hours. At this time, it's 50 hours a month that you have to preach. And you have this kind of full day of encouragement, it's called. So they read scriptures, they have talks. Talks are sermons. Man, there's so much weird language, but they have sermons basically about how to encourage people in the preaching work, and they have interviews, things like that. Now, usually, they have it in an assembly hall, which is basically this really big place with lots of seats. A thousand or 1,500 people can fit in there. They had everybody sit in the middle row because there's not that many pioneers versus the publisher. A publisher is just like a regular someone that's a witness. They don't have any hours they must put in a month. So they have us all sitting in the row. And usually during these assemblies, during these meetings, I'm either taking notes, I'm looking at the speaker, or I'm following along in the scriptures. And sometimes I'll be texting if someone texts me. Let's be honest, like everyone does it.
Yes.
So, but for the first time, I'm standing up in the back, and I'm not doing any of those things. I'm not listening really too much. I'm not writing notes. I'm not following the scriptures. I'm just looking at my friends and family, and I'm looking at them, and they're all kind of just looking and nodding their head. And he did one of these things where I don't know how it is in your group, but when someone's giving a talk, we call them talks, like these sermons, the audience isn't allowed to really talk back. It's just someone talking at somebody, and they will do these pauses in their speech. So for example, they'll go, "Aren't we glad we have this new light from Jehovah?" And they pause.
Amen. That's
And
what
then
we'll say.
and then, oh, you'll say amen.
Amen. Yeah. but only exactly only at these pauses. Nobody just randomly says it.
Says it.
Same. There's
Interesting.
Jehovah Witnesses. They have that own talk, brothers and sisters. You know, like it's very. We have the same thing, not the same way you guys do it, but
Mm-hmm.
there's the same tone, and it's picked up by everybody that's a
Yes.
leader, and they all do
Wow.
the same thing. And yeah, very interesting. But yeah, please continue.
Yes, we did that thing. So we don't say amen. The only thing we're really allowed to do is to like either laugh or clap. But clapping, so he goes, he does that little small inference. He stops. And what does that mean? And everyone started clapping. And I was like, it clicked in my head. I'm like, he just made you all clap. Like
Yeah.
he could say anything. At this point, I'm thinking this man can say whatever he wants. And everyone is going to nod in agreement or clap in agreement. And you're supposed to. They'll literally wait and they wait until you clap in agreement. So that just happened in my mind. So I leave the main auditorium and I sit down and I don't have a coherent thought, but I feel like the best way I can explain it is things are just running through my head. And the next thing I know, it's almost as if there's a security camera in the corner of the room and I'm looking at myself from like up there to down, looking at myself sitting. I know it sounds crazy, but that was my experience. So that passes over. I get back into my own mind or whatever, and the meeting ends, and I just try to get out of there. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. People, usually a talkative person. I always help after every assembly or pioneer seminar. You clean, so you vacuum or you clean the bathrooms. You're like, can you help us clean? I'm like, I just gotta go. So I leave, and I don't even remember what I did for the rest of the day. I really don't, but I do remember people calling and checking on me, like, are you okay? Like, I thought you were having a panic. Like, what was going on? And I was like, I like made up some excuse because how could I explain it to somebody that
Yeah.
I just saw the mechanisms of like control in real time. Like there was no way for me to put that into words. And obviously,
It
if I
just
start,
snapped. It
yeah,
just
yeah,
snapped.
it,
It's so crazy in these cults
yeah,
that you can be brainwashed for so long, and enough stuff happens to where like you still don't wake up, but finally something clicks. And it is, when I say to people it's a snap, just like you experienced, it was same as me. You start seeing kind of like red flags, things that are like, but you still believe fully. You still have
mm-hmm,
100% full faith, but you start seeing these things that are off.
yeah,
But eventually, once you start thinking like that, it's a matter of time. It
yes,
was the same with me, and it took months before, and then I had that same moment where it just was like this, boom,
mm,
whoa,
yeah,
something's not right here, like for
no,
sure.
yeah, and it's such
Wow,
a scary. It was really
it's
scary.
so scary.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's sad because the first thing my mind went to was what's going to happen to my relationship with my friends and family. Because if you are a witness and you leave, whether willingly or the congregation removes you, that's it. No contact. They are not supposed. And you mentioned that you were shunned as well, so
same.
you're probably
Yeah,
familiar with this.
they do the same.
Yeah.
Differently, but I think very similar, yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first thought. Like, how am I going to balance this? Should I stay in? Should we? Because at this time, I actually right when I woke up, I proposed to my wife right before I woke up. So I'm talking to her. And I let her know about all these things because I don't want to get married to her thinking that I'm like some witness and I'm realizing that I'm in a group that's not lining up to what it teaches. And I'm just thinking I'm gonna lose everybody. I'm gonna lose my friends. I'm gonna lose my family. And it's hard to try to explain my mindset because I thought maybe I could fake it till I make it, so to speak. Maybe I can just stay in the organization, not do as much as I did before, but still do it so that I can still have the relationship. But that just shows how desperate I was and so many other are because your whole foundation, your whole social structure is this group. You don't have much of anything outside of it. Now, thankfully, I do have family, and I was out that aren't witnesses, and was making friends that were not witnesses. But still, you're talking about friendships that you've built since you were 2, 3, 4 years old, family members that you've known your whole life, and just thinking that that's going to be gone one day was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I knew when I started to doubt, I was in an arranged marriage. I knew she was going to leave me if I left because it happened. Because of the church, though, the church will make them pretty much. They'll be involved in, especially when you arrange marriage to a Korean, because that's where our church is from. Yeah, I knew it was happening. So like even when I started to doubt, I had to play the part. And kind of like you were like an elder, I guess you can say like a higher up person kind of in the church, right? I would say in some sense. And same as me, I was a assistant overseer. I guess you can call it assistant pastor. So if my overseer is gone, I'm the one giving the sermon. I'm the
yeah,
one doing the Bible studies when somebody brings a contact. I'm the
yeah,
one driving to different states and leading worship at our house churches or office churches and Bible studies, and I have to go preach every single day. So when you wake up, it's so hard because I'm like, man, I have to put on a facade here for a while. And I
hmm
couldn't keep up with the facade anymore. I had to tell my wife. And I mean, it's more in my story.
hmm
Obviously, like on my channel, people can like see it. But I know that feeling. You once you wake up, it's like it's a kind of a good feeling, like wow. But at the same time, it's like the scariest feeling in the world because it's like I'll lose everything. You know,
yeah,
the friends, family, because I did. I mean, at least everybody in the organization. I mean, that's cut off completely.
hmm
Um, so yeah, I know, I know what it feels like in that sense for sure. It's not a good feeling.
No, it's really
It's
not.
terrible.
Yeah, it is. And that's why if they if the groups like the groups like yours or mine didn't have these harsh rules about shunning and even like with the blood transfusions, I probably wouldn't be so outspoken about this stuff,
Agreed.
like leaving, you
Same.
know. But this is what makes it a cult. If your group is telling you we're the only one true church, if this group is telling you if you leave that like everyone has to cut you off, if they have harsh doctrines, if they're like the thought reform, all of that, you're more than likely in a cult. So that's why I want to use my voice, and I'm glad that you're doing this as well, because people need to hear both sides for sure. And if they hear my side and still say, you know what, I still think the Jehovah's Witnesses are cool and they join, then that's up to you. I'm not gonna force
Yeah,
somebody not to do it, but you got to hear both sides before you join one of these groups, you know.
exactly.
So I don't know if you wanted me to keep going with my.
No, yeah, yeah. Please continue with your story and everything like that. The next thing I'll definitely bring up later, in your story is about the internet and looking up the groups online.
Yeah,
But I'll let you continue. Continue with your story.
yeah. So right after I had that snap, like I like how you called it that. That's when I gave myself permission to. I could tie this in now if you want. The internet. When I gave myself permission to actually look up my organization, and it sounds weird saying that out loud because you're like, "What do you mean give yourself permission?"
Scariest thing in the world.
It is. It
So
is.
scary.
You're told your whole life that apostates, people that go against the organization, that they are slanderous, that they spread lies, they want people to worship them. Some of them are mentally deranged, some of them are inspired by the devil. And that they're going to go online and they're going to spread lies about the organization and these negative reports, even if it's coming from the news stations, even if it's coming from these reputable places, that's just Satan working. Like that's what you're told over and over and over again. So it's scary to finally open that Google tab and look up Jehovah's Witnesses, like false religion or Jehovah's Witnesses cult or whatever. I would have never done that as a witness, or even look up the name Jehovah's Witnesses in the Google tab because you might find something pop up in the Google search. You're told just go to jw.org, which is the official website. So it's crazy. I'm sure you're
I'm
laughing. I'm sure you
sorry.
had similar.
It's because it's no different. Literally, it's 100% the same. It's 100% the same. There's zero difference in what you just said and how it was for us.
Yeah, it's
For us,
crazy.
I don't know with you guys, but I guess in some way it's like life or death if you go online because you might get summoned to a hearing committee or something like that for looking up apostate material and then you could get shunned. So
Oh yeah.
technically it is a death sentence. And for us, same thing. We are told it's eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So,
Mm-hmm.
because since God the Mother said, who's living in South Korea, and she can read our minds pretty much because she's God in the flesh, right? If we go online, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They say people that go online, they fall away because they listen to the slanderers and the Satan gossip. So they eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they'll die. And you're like, oh my gosh. And then you hear about people that go online and they leave the church, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're right. It's fulfilled. You go online, you leave the church.
Yep.
But then when you actually go online yourself, you're like, oh wait, now it makes sense why we leave. But I don't know how it was for you. Were you scared at first? Obviously, you were scared at first to look at the organization. What I did to make myself more comfortable, I was looking up other cults.
Mm.
And then when I realized mine was a cult, I finally got the courage to look at mine specifically. But how was it for you?
Yeah, pretty much. I was really interested in other religions. So I was researching Christianity, Judaism, Islam, more Eastern religions, Buddhism, Taoism, things like that. But so this was right before I woke up. I was researching this, and I think this actually helped me. So I'm researching, finding out about these different faiths, and then that snap happened. And after the snap happened, I still didn't like immediately Google it, but I saw a YouTube. I think it was from Redeem. I don't know if you've ever heard of Redeem Zoomer, but he's like this Christian apologetic, like a young guy. He's probably like 23.
Okay.
But it was talking about like seven, like I don't know if they use the word cults, but they use like offshoots of Christianity or like sects of Christianity. And I saw the JW symbol in there. So even though I had this snap in my mind, I still had to give myself like a reasoning to click on it. And I said, well, he's not specifically talking about the witnesses. He's talking about like, all these groups of witnesses or all these other groups. And as I watched that video and as we're having this conversation too, it brings me back to like, I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many similarities. All of these groups came around in like the 1800s, at least the groups in the video. They say they're the one true church. They have some weird doctrines, off of mainstream Christianity. There's shunning involved. There's this, and that. And it's like the skeleton's all there. So once I saw that, and then he got to the witness part, after I saw that video, another video popped up, what is a cult? And I watched that. And then that's when the floodgates opened, and I was like, okay. And then I started seeing, I started specifically looking up. I went onto the subreddit on Reddit, XJW. I went on there, and so yeah, I kind of had a lead up to it. It wasn't too long, but even after that snap, I had to give myself reasoning to look at certain stuff.
It's just so similar. Really.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say. It's so similar.
Yeah. So I started researching, and I first focused on more of an internal critique of the witnesses, like the doctrines doesn't make sense, comparing what they've wrote, and comparing it next to each other. And I talked about the UN first, and the belief is the UN is going to be part of, it's called Gog of Magog, is mentioned in the Bible. They actually say it's part of Gog of Magog, and it's going to attack the witnesses. And then when I learned about, like you mentioned, that the witnesses actually were part of the UN as an NGO, which I believe is a non-governmental organization. And when it came out in the newspapers that, hey, you guys are slamming the UN as some demonic beast that's going to destroy every other religion, but you guys are an NGO. And I was reading, and they put their hands up and said, well, the only reason we did that is because to be part of their library, to have their information, you have to be part of an NGO. And everyone was like, no, you don't. I think even the UN made a statement. It was like, you do not have to be an NGO to be part of our library. So once I saw that, it kind of reminded me of the book 1984. I don't know if you ever read that, but that's
yeah. He also wrote the Animal Farm.
Yes. I thought Stephen King.
Name?
I think it's Stephen King. Is that not?
I'm trying to think. Who's the name? Who's the author's
name?
I
think it's Steve Orwell. I have it.
Steve Orwell.
George Orwell. Yeah, I got it right here.
George Orwell. Yeah, he wrote Animal Farm as well to help understand about the Soviet Union, and I recommend that book to you. Actually, it goes right in line with that book.
Okay.
And it explains how he was explaining about, it helps you understand about cults too, but with the Soviet Union and what they were doing, but he explained it through like this animal farm, and then the pigs are rising up and controlling the animal farm and stuff. George Orwell, same author, so please look it
Awesome.
up after. I mean, it helped me a
Oh
lot.
yeah, I definitely will. Thank you for I love reading, so I
Yeah.
will check that out. But the reason why I say it reminded me of that is because I was seeing that within the history of the witnesses and what they taught, it wasn't consistent what they were saying now. Even like they're I was seeing doctrines like for a certain amount of time, I think it was like 10 or 11 years, they taught that organ transplants were actually cannibalism, and that it's clear that in the Bible you should not be a cannibal, you should not eat, so you eat your fellow human, I guess, so you can't have an organ transplant. And then they reverted that and said actually you can have one now. So I was seeing that there was like this flip flop of doctrine, but even though there was, to the rank and file of the witnesses, you were never told this. Like, you weren't consistently told, oh yeah, we kind of would change between these major doctrines. You're just told that this is actually new light, that progressively God reveals his light to his followers, and this is just how God's works. This is how Jehovah works. It's just, so just accept it. But it seemed like they were just flopping back and forth. And the reason why I said it reminded me of 1984, because in that book they mentioned that, they went through in that book and destroyed specific books and destroyed the history and of the world, so to speak. And there actually was a commission multiple times, actually, uh, in the organization, where the branch, which is the name of like the group of in the Watchtower, sent letters to the congregations and told them to destroy articles from a certain time, anytime from, I think it was like the 50s and before the 50s. And even if you go to their online library of JW, the Watchtower online library, you'll see the Watchtower ends at I think around 1950, because a lot of articles before that have things that mention, like, the doctrine used to be they used to worship Jesus. They didn't call him like one with the Jehovah, but they would say you can worship Jesus along with the Father. Now you can't. They taught before the actually witnesses did celebrate. The Bible students did celebrate Christmas and certain things like that. So you'll see that I was seeing that this group was presenting itself as, we are unified in the truth. We believe this one thing. We've had some adjustments along the time, but the doctrine's been pretty consistent. And as I'm doing this internal critique, I'm saying that that's the farthest thing from the truth. Absolutely the farthest thing.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about the book by George Orwell, 1984, and like everything you just discussed, it makes so much sense, because it talks about this destruction of history to rebuild kind of like a new history, so people don't know what happened before. And when I look at the World Messiah Church of God, they did something very similar. They used to say that Zangil Jah, meaning God the Mother, she won't die. She's not going to die. We'll ascend alive with her as a 144,000. And we used to have hymn books, like we would call them new song books, but it's like a hymn books we would sing in the church. And they used to have certain pages in it, which it would say, we're going to go to heaven with Heavenly Mother. She can't die. We'll go hand in hand with her to heaven in the last days. But now they say something different. They say, oh, no, we never taught that. But they can say that because what they did in the early 2000s, not the early 2000s, but around 2020, we took all those new song books, ripped up the pages, and literally burnt them in burn barrels outside all the churches in the U.S.
Wow.
We got rid of the history. We got rid of the evidence. So now they can tell people we never taught that.
Yeah.
And now looking from the outside in, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why we did it. They were already preparing, knowing she's not God. She's just a human. But they need to start preparing for the next generation. Who's going to lead the church? Because she will die.
Yeah.
So this is crazy. I mean, with these groups on how they try to hide their own history, because their own history is their worst enemy. It really is with a lot of these organizations. So they do their very best to hide it. And the best way to do that is don't go online. Trust our material. We're the true church. Why do you need to listen to outside people? You already know you're in the truth. We're going to tell you what's right, what's wrong, everything like that. But that's what's so scary about these groups. And it's very familiar with a lot of not only the American cults, but the Asian cults that are in America right now as well. So either way, man, we're out now, but thankfully, and we know what is, we're not claiming that we know truth, but we know that they're claiming it is false completely. At least we know that. So that's a step in the right direction. But from there, Isaiah, I'd like you just to continue with your story. You're online. You're starting to look things up. How is it with that?
Yeah, it was a lot learning about the history of the organization and seeing that, this group's foundation was not only just completely shaky, but it was based on false beliefs. The Charles Taze Russell believed, and you can read it in this books he wrote, that 1914 was the date for the end of the world, for Armageddon to start. And he got that from using the research when people were really into measuring the inner hallways of pyramids of Gaza. That's actually how you have the 1914 date, which is so prevalent even now. But you even see that even though he believed 1914 was the date of the return of Jesus, that got changed because obviously 1914 came, nothing happened. He said, well, actually, he returned invisibly into heaven and sat down he became ruler over heaven and pitched Satan out of heaven, that he couldn't come to heaven anymore. That's why the earth is so bad. And they'll point to World War One, World War Two, and say that's why World War One and World War Two happened. Um, so seeing that, like, 'cause a thought process kind of comes in your mind, like, okay, maybe things are bad now, but was there ever a time that this might have been the truth, or this might have been a good foundational religion? And you look back even to the founder, Charles Taze Russell, that there was falsehoods even there. So it was a lot to handle. And then my fiance and I at the time talked a lot about it, and thankfully she just told me that she was gonna love me for me, regardless of my religious affiliations, which I was very happy for because I was stressed. I
Yeah.
really thought that she was gonna leave me because, like most people, if they were told their potential partner was gonna leave, they would never stick with them. So very thankful for my wife for
Exactly.
that, and it was a lot navigating that together. I definitely did not handle it perfectly. I kind of just bombarded her with information. I wish I kind of handled it a little differently, but it was kind of one of those things where I had no one else to talk to about this. I couldn't go to my friends and tell them all the stuff I'm finding. I
Yeah.
kind of did. I would sneak them little tidbits. Like we had group chats, and I had found this one article. The belief system used to be that, the curse of Cain in the Bible is the reason why African Americans have their black skin, like black people have the black skin, and that it's a curse, and that when we get to paradise after the Armageddon, that black people's skin is actually going to turn white. Like that was a belief. Yeah, I feel like your face, like that.
Well, no, I think it's funny because the LDS church had that. My
Yeah.
church had that. My church completely denies it, but they
Hmm.
used to teach similarly.
Yeah, that was a belief, and I took a. So what I did with my friends was I took like a little quote because my friends were talking about the LDS church and how like they used to believe that, and I took a quote from one of our old watchtowers and I put it in the chat, and they're like, "Oh, like this has to be a LDS church. They're so crazy, this and that." And I said, "Actually, I'm reading one of our old articles." And immediately they're like, well, I'm so glad that we have the new light now, that we don't believe that things have
Yeah.
changed. Like immediately they were berating that because they thought it was from the Mormon church. And now they're
Yeah.
like, oh, defending it. Like, I'm glad that we don't believe that anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So with my friends, I never really straight up told them, but I would like share them little tidbits. So eventually, my wife and I did get married. We had a JW wedding. It wasn't at a Kingdom Hall, but we had the talk, and our whole thought process was, this is one of the most important days, of our life. We want to share it with our family and friends. And we kind of had the thought of, we're going to just stay in the organization for a little bit and just fade slowly. Um, because I was in one of my best friends. One of my best friends was in my wedding, and I was going to be in his in about 5 or 6 months. So I
Yeah.
just thought, let's at least stick it out until his wedding so we can support it. Because if I left, I would not have been part of his wedding. So we get married, we leave for our honeymoon, then we come back, we both get a little sick. And about a month and a half passes, and we missed meetings, we missed service preaching is what we call it. We miss our assembly, and we just look at each other like, I'm like, I don't want to go back. Like being away from it, it was like a fresh of breath air, you know? And
Yeah.
especially on top of everything that you're learning about the organization, that there's some really messed up things going on behind the scenes, especially with, the CSA, the child abuse cases, learning about that. So then we decided,
Is that the Australian Royal Commission?
yeah,
Probably
Federal
the
Commission, that was a game changer for me because why that was such a big game changer was not only were they unwilling to punish the wrongdoers. If you came to the elders and told them, you know, hey, I did this serious sin, they're gonna handle it internally. I understand that. It's within the congregation, within the church. But if you're breaking the law that you're part of and assaulting a child or watching things, including children, that's illegal. And it's funny because witnesses pride themselves on being these law-abiding citizens that, return Caesar's things back to Caesar. But when it comes to these, they try their best to keep it internal, which is so wrong. So when I was learning about that, and then I saw from one of the leaders of the organization, they're called the governing body, on on the stand being asked questions by judges or by lawyers, excuse me, and they asked him, do you believe you're the only mouthpiece of God? His name was Jeffrey Jackson. He's still a governing body member, and he said it would be presumptuous of me to say that. And when I saw that, I was like, you don't even believe, like, you're the governing body member. You've been telling me my whole life and all of us that the governing body, basically the structure is there's Jehovah, there's Jesus, and then there's the governing body. And that to get, like, basically you have to obey the governing body to understand the scriptures to get to through Jesus, to get to God. And that no one else has that. So you've told me that your whole life, yet you couldn't even uphold to your own belief system that you're forcing us to believe. So yeah, learning about that, and then my wife and I being away, and then learning about all of that, it's like we want nothing to do with this. So eventually, I went. It's tough because you said you had shunning. We have shunning. We call it disfellowshipping. They just updated it. They call it removing now. Um, I didn't want to be removed because I thought, okay, maybe I can find a way to like not be removed, just be inactive. That way, my friends and family would have the opportunity to speak with me still. So I was trying to find a way to balance leaving, but also not being removed from the congregation. So I just went to my friends. The first person I went was to my friend that was in my wedding, and I told him, "Hey, I am stepping down as a ministerial servant. I'm stepping down as a pioneer, and I'm not going to meetings anymore. I'm not punished. Like, I'm not in trouble. Nothing happened to me, but this is just a personal decision." And I told him, I'm stepping out of your wedding. And a reason I did that was I was trying to explain that I understand what it was like. If you have a JW wedding, the people in your wedding have to be JWs. And better yet, it's better yet if they have privileges, so to speak, in the congregation. Like, it looks good on the bride and groom. So I knew if I left the meetings and then tried to stay in his wedding, I already knew he was probably going to remove me anyway, but I didn't want to put him in that predicament, like to have to choose. So that's what I told him. And I said,
yeah.
at the end of the day, we're going to support you regardless. We still love you. We're going to support you, and we'll still be here for you if you need it. And then the next day I got a message from him saying like, and I never told him why. He never asked me why I was leaving, anything like that, but I still received a message from him saying, you know, you guys are uninvited from all the wedding activities, and until you come to your
That's so
senses,
crazy.
yeah, until you
That's
come to
so
your senses
crazy.
and
Yeah.
get the help from the elders and come back to Jehovah, yeah, you're out. And it was wild to me. I was really shocked. I was shocked by the fact that he immediately included Skylar in that too, because I never said anything about her. But at the
Mm,
time, there's rumor. That's my wife's name. At the time, there's rumors
yeah.
going around that she's the reason that I left. So everyone's blaming her.
The
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah. So then I
Yeah.
go to another one of my best friends, and we have lunch, and I tell him the same thing I told my other friend. And he's somebody that keeps saying, please tell me, please explain to me why. And I am emphasizing, I'm saying, I don't want to say because I don't want to rip you out of your faith, and I don't want you to think I'm doing that. Because genuinely, this
Yeah.
has been one of the most traumatic things ever. And I really do believe that everyone kind of has to wake up on their own in some way. And everyone kind of wakes up for different reasons. But
Mhm.
regardless, he still was pressuring me and saying, hey, I'm still gonna love you. Like, it's gonna be okay. Let's talk about this. And me and him went through a lot together. So I thought, okay, I'll tell him. So I'm telling him, a lot of the things I mentioned, but I really didn't focus on the organization. I just kept to my personal experience and my, study of the scriptures, things like that. But then I brought up the Australian Royal Commission, and I brought up the governing body member. And at the end of it, he tells me, hey, man, I'm not going to shun you. I still love you as long as you uphold the two greatest commandments to love your neighbor, to love God. I'm still going to be here. He kept saying that. I'm going to love you. I'm not going to shun you. He hugged me, and I drove away, and I'm thinking, wow, maybe there can be some semblance of a relationship, even if we don't believe everything. And I was so wrong, because the next day
Yeah.
he emails me.
Tried that move. I tried it. Doesn't work.
It doesn't, because he emailed me,
No.
which I was like, dude, why are you like you have my number, but he emails me and says, sums up, I was in shock yesterday, um, but I do believe that the governing body is leading this organization, and it's clear to me that you've never had the truth in you, and I have to protect my family from you, and until I hope we can be brothers again one day. And
It's
when he
crazy. Yeah.
like what? I was looking at it and I'm like, I definitely cried, because for him to say he's got to
Yeah.
protect his family, I've done nothing but support and help his family. Like, we were friends even before he had his wife and kids. I was there for him. So I'm just like, that's the
It's crazy.
hold they have on him. And I think it's because I mentioned the governing body, because you can tell a witness, I don't believe in God, this and that, and they'll still be around. But as soon as you criticize the governing body, that's when they will cut ties with you. You know.
That's so wild. I mean, I know what you're feeling. 100%. Actually, I mean, it's people you knew your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Probably saw 'em a lot throughout the week, even just with Jehovah Witness Kingdom Hall stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of all the times like these people that I'd drive them to preaching meetings. I would do construction with them at the church. I literally saw these people every day because we had to
Yes.
be at the church every day.
Yep.
And when you leave, at first, they don't shun you if you just they thought I was going to a new location, new congregation when I stepped down
Mm-hmm.
from my position.
Mm-hmm.
But still, you're not supposed to talk to people. Even if you, for example, Isaiah, like let's say you're at one Kingdom Hall and then you go to a new one in another state,
Mm-hmm.
you could probably still talk to the people, right?
Oh, like if they don't know you, wait, you said if I like go travel somewhere, or if I go to another
Like
state?
let's say you yourself, you move.
Okay.
Like this was your old congregation in New York, let's say, and you move to, let's say, Michigan, and you start going to that church. Are you guys allowed to? Can you still communicate with the people at the old Kingdom Hall?
It depends. Like, am I gonna removed in this situation? Like, am I
Nope.
disfellowshipped?
Just transferring. You're still
Oh
a
yeah, you can still
faithful
talk to.
Jehovah Witness.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we're not supposed to.
What?
Not that they're cut off. If they're a close friend of you, you can say like greetings, like, "Hey, how you been? Oh, I've been good. Good to hear." But that's like really
Why?
it. So information control. It's smart though, because now they can spread a narrative in that church about you, and not other churches know about it or stuff like this. It's really smart. They can control, even though we're under one organization, my
Yeah.
church, they can still control every single organization. So if you leave because of um disfellowshipped, I guess you can say, or you're shunned, especially when you speak out and leave,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting cut off for sure.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. But members weren't even talking to me anyways. When I came to Colorado, nobody was talking to me because I moved to a new state and
Mm,
I'm a part of a new congregation. But as soon as I left, yeah, it was like extreme shunning. Like no random, every once in a blue moon, a text from a random person saying, "Hey, how you been? Good." And then that's it. But it was bad. I mean, similar to you, how they cut you off and they sent you that email. I had a guy call me from the church, even though he shouldn't talk to me either way.
Hmm.
He called me saying, "You're going to hell. You're going to regret this on the last day. You're pretty much demon possessed." Crazy stuff, like just so into it. And I know with you how that feels in the sense of like, man, like I knew this person how long? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not evil, but they look at you like that. You know what I mean? They look at you like you're demon possessed, or like, you were never one of God's people, actually. You were maybe just, I don't know if you've ever studied about the wheat and the chaff. Our group used to say, oh yeah, the people that stay in the church, they're the wheat.
Yes.
But the chaff look like the wheat, but they never were really a part of
My
us. And that's
God,
why
we
they
used to say the
left. Yeah.
same thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, so So yeah, dude, I feel sorry though. Honestly, I mean, it's nice to have somebody that understands how it feels
Hmm.
for just not believing what another person believes to be shunned for it. It's like, yeah, this is a cult. But the good thing is, when these things happen to us, it only solidifies our reason why it's a good thing we left,
Hmm.
because it happens to us and now we see it fully.
Yeah.
At first, you don't fully see it, but you fully see it when this stuff starts happening to you, the shunning and all that, and you're like, dude, this is crazy. Actually, I'm glad I'm out of there now.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my wife says all the time, because when we basically made my decision, or we made our decision together to like not go anymore, my wife was more of a space of, I still want to have a relationship with God. I don't know if the only way I know how to do that is through the organization. And she would always tell me like, would you mind if I went back? Like, I'm kind of struggling with like going back. And I always told her, because really quick, as a witness, you're always told of like these experiences of unbelieving mates, like one mate's believing and one's unbelieving, and like if the one would try to go to meetings, like the husband would beat her or something like that. And I always tell her like, that's not gonna be me.
Crazy.
If you decide to go to the meeting, like that's your decision. I'm not gonna force you to do anything. Yet, but once everybody started like spreading rumors about her, like straight up lies and mistreating
Yep.
me, and then she can see all that, she's like, oh, I don't want to go back to this, you
Yep.
know?
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Spread lies when you leave, too.
Oh, so many lies. Like one of the
So many. It's crazy. Let me hear your lie. What was the lie they spread about you? And I'll tell you the one they spread about me.
Okay, well, there was two big ones that really bothered both of us. The first one was that Skylar's dad showed her an apostate video, and she showed me an apostate video, which makes no sense because Skylar's dad's like a devout Jehovah's Witness. And that lie actually came, or actually, I don't know if it came from him, but it was being spread by the brother that gave our wedding talk. And then another lie was that basically, well, there's so many, I could go on and on. But basically, we had been planning to do this, to leave since we started dating, but we just did the wedding so we can get money and gifts from our friends and family. When I heard that one probably hurt the deepest, because I am very close to my friends and family. Like they know that I would give them the shirt on my back. The gifts, the money, we didn't care about that. This was like one of our most important special days. We just wanted them to be there, for that. So like that was like the two biggest lies. I was like, you guys are just making stuff up for no reason,
And it makes you so mad. It's like, oh my gosh. Like,
yeah.
You guys are the worst. Like, wow.
Really?
Like, you can't just let people. There's always people that say, you guys left the church, but you won't leave the church alone. It's because you won't leave us alone. You have to spread narratives and lies about us. Like, we have to defend ourselves.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about you? What were the lies about you?
Yeah, mine was interesting. And the good thing is, like, if they want to come after me, I got them for defamation all the way. Like, there is a pastor of our church that left the church in Denver. And he's like, it's kind of funny because like I think they're all false prophets, but they call him a false prophet because he left. He started his own church called the New Jerusalem Church of God, and he took a lot of leaders and members out, like maybe 200 or more in America, and started his own church. And they had an education. This was already when I left the World Messiah Church of God, but they had an education that like anybody that joins Daniel Park's church, they're blotted out of the book of life. Don't you dare talk to them. Mother says they're already doomed to hell. Like, don't talk to them. So my old congregation thought, oh, what a great idea. Mitch is speaking out online. Let us just tell people he joined Daniel Park's church. And that's what they did.
Wow.
So that's why everyone's like, oh, dude, you're following this false prophet. You're going to hell. Mother already said you guys are all blotted out of the book of life. You've been excommunicated from the church. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I'm literally speaking out online. I literally have videos about his group. You know what I mean? But they can't watch my videos, so they would never know. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But that was one of them. And then one was some members thought I was a spy working for the government because I worked in some intelligence within the Navy before, like when I was in. Yeah, so they're like, oh, he could have been an undercover. It's a weird stuff, dude. I would never had faith from the beginning.
Yeah, you
Or
hear that a
Mitch
lot.
was just he was just infiltrating this cult for 6 years and got an arranged marriage for, I don't know why. Like, I do infiltrate cults now for to expose them, but like, man, 6 years, I couldn't even stand 6 months in some of these places I've been in. Like, 6 years, phew, no way, sir. But yeah, very funny. They love to spread lies because they want to control the narrative.
That's
Because
the
if they reach
part.
out,
Yeah.
they want to get ahead of it, because if they actually communicate with you and somehow you actually tell them why you left, it might change the narrative. So they'll try to spread that rumor
Yeah.
beforehand, so they can picture you as this enemy, so nobody talks to you, so nobody can reach out and actually find the real reason why you left. They
Yes.
need to make you the number one enemy.
Yeah, that's so well said. And you'll never hear at least our group, you'll never hear them say, Isaiah so and so left because they like researched and they just made a personal decision not to be part of it. It's always demonizing. It's always making them a bad person, and like you said, to control the narrative. And something you said really quick when you said mother, that like clicked something in my mind, because witnesses used to say that a lot, mother. Because basically in the Bible it talks about like there's a bride of Christ, and
Yeah.
they called the 144,000 the bride of Christ, and the governing body, who are the leaders of the Jehovah's Witnesses, were part of you have to be part of the 144,000. So when you said that, I was like, oh my God, we used to, like, that's not, you won't hear that now amongst modern JWs, but like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, that like you would call the governing body mother. Like, oh, well, mothers sent their direction. So when you said, because the only reason I know about that, I'm only 27. I was born in 98. But I know about that because like some of the older generation slip up sometimes. They still say that. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my God, I used to remember hearing people saying, oh, mother, that's what mother said. That's what mother said. So that's
so
even,
funny.
yeah.
But our mothers are real gods, right? That's the difference. Right?
You're a real God. Your mother's a real.
Yeah, our mother's a real 83-year-old woman god in South Korea. So.
That's crazy. But yeah, it's so we basically, we were saying that in real time, and just seeing how like the narrative about us was being spread. I mean, I even had at one point during our honeymoon, well, before our honeymoon, I had went like on a YouTube panel of this guy named Sam Shamunin. He's like a Trinitarian Catholic guy, and we did 3 videos, and they're like 3 hours long, and he like labeled them Jehovah's Witness starts to understand the Trinity, right? Because I just was asking questions about it, and that got put all over YouTube and TikTok.
Wow.
And my one friend saw the clip on TikTok, I guess, sends me a voice message, and basically is like, hey, I saw your video, you were talking with an apostate, you need to go to the elders or I will. And I'm just like, what the heck, bro? Like, you didn't even know, like, hey, what were some of the questions you had? Like, why did you reach out to him? It's immediately you have to go to the elders, and that's huge in the witness organization. It's like, because they tell you, if you find out about somebody's sin and don't urge them to go to the elders, and you don't tell, that you now carry their sin. So it's this really it's the culture within is crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is nuts, honestly.
Yeah, looking back is wild. So yeah, we dealt with a lot of people just saying whatever. And so technically right now my wife and I aren't like removed or disfellowshipped from the church. You can do something called disassociating, which is basically writing your letter to the congregation saying, I no longer recognize myself. A lot of people do take that step. For them, that's like their final step for healing. For me, I never did it because, and I probably won't, because for me, I don't recognize them as having power. I don't recognize.
Yeah,
I don't want to play
why
the
do you have to why do I need to go to a committee meeting after I leave? Why do I need to
exactly.
write you a letter? Like
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just gonna leave. What are you gonna do? Take me to court for leaving your group? You know what I
exactly.
mean?
I
Like
don't believe in your group anymore. Like even if you quit a job, you don't have to write a letter to. Like if you quit, you could just literally just leave. Um,
exactly.
So, but funny enough, you mentioned that when I reached out to because the only thing I did to the elders was I told them I'm stepping out as a servant. The reason I did that was I had parts every week at the meeting. Like I was giving sermons and or talks we call them, and helping on like audio visual micro passing the microphones because we have watchtower studies where there's question and answer. So I always had parts. So the reason I stepped down was because I didn't want to keep getting assigned parts and then them keep messaging me like, "Oh, you missed your part." So I just told them I'm not going to meetings and I'm stepping down. And I had this my coordinator of the body of elders. He's kind of like the top elder in the congregation. We're talking on the phone, and I'm telling him, "Hey, people are lying about Skylar. People are lying about this." And he told me, "Well, as long as they don't put their hands on her, don't worry about it." And I'm just like, "That's a weird thing to say." And then I mentioned, "Yeah, I just don't want to go anymore." He's like, "Well, if we don't let you go, we're a cult." Which I was like, okay, at least maybe he's recognizing some weird tactics. But then immediately he follows up and says, "Well, since you're stepping down as a ministerial servant, you have to meet with us so we know why." And I'm like, you don't even realize the things you just said are completely contradictory. You know, you're telling me
Yeah.
I have to meet with you guys, and I've been doing more research and I've been talking to elders who have left. Essentially, what they try to do is they have to put you in a box. They have to either put you as you're part of the group or you're not. Most people, 99% of the time, if you're going to meet with the elders and you've already told them you have doubts, you're leaving, you're going to get disfellowship for something or removed because they have to put you somewhere. But funny enough, we're not disfellowship, we're not removed, but we're treated like we are for sure by most people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, to wrap it up, Isaiah, do you have any more parts that you would like to share, like with your story? And if not, just kind of like, do you have any like words of encouragement to like, if there's any J Dubs that are like watching this video right now, ex J Dubs, or just anybody that's in a high control group, just kind of like giving them hope or anything like that?
Yeah, I not too much about my story because I can go on and on. To anybody that's leaving a cult, a high control group, whether it's XJW or your group or anyone else, just know that the world isn't all evil. You know, most groups and cults will make the outside world outside of within their church or congregation like everything in your life is going to go horrible. And here's the truth about life, not the truth in the sense of the organization, but like bad things happen all the time. Good things happen. Sometimes neutral things happen. You're going to meet good people. You're going to meet bad people. That isn't dictated upon their religious beliefs or dictated upon what group they're part of. That's just how life is. Regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of the group they're in, you're going to meet people that vary. So remember that as you leave your group, there are good people out there that you're going to come across, and try your best to just make a connection outside of that group. I will say it's not easy initially because when you're part, especially the Jehovah's Witnesses, you meet another Jehovah's Witness and you guys say, "Oh, you're witnesses." You kind of have that like click of, "Oh, we can be friends." Um, I'll say that outside of that, it's not always the easiest to find, but you will build true friendships that will love you unconditionally because unfortunately, the relationships you've built in the organization are built upon you having this shared faith. And once that's gone, most will leave you. So even though you're not going to have that instant connection outside of the organization, the relationships you build are going to be a slow burn, as you will, but they're going to be so much stronger. And those people, even if it's only a couple of people, they're going to be with you, even if you tell them, "Oh, I don't believe in God," or even tell them, "Oh, I believe in this." They're still going to be there for you. So I guess my message would be that it's going to be okay. It's a lot to handle. Give yourself time, patience, and love, and remember that truth is able to be held up against scrutiny. You're able to ask questions. And if you're part of a group that when you ask questions or start to ask too many questions, they look down upon you and to start giving you labels, then that's maybe a group you don't want to be part of anymore.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, Isaiah put it well. I mean, to be honest with you, and it's all conditional love
Hmm.
with inside these organizations. They say it's always unconditional while you're in, but once you leave, you come to realize this is it's not unconditional. It's very conditional. Um, and yeah, I'm just so happy you came on, Isaiah, and able to share your story. And I always like to tell people, research isn't sin. It's not sin.
Yeah.
You should see both sides of the story before you join a group. And even for me, like Isaiah said, there's good people outside in the outside world we're not going to do anything to. Because, for example, me, I'm a Christian. I left as a Christian. I still am. However, I have so many atheist friends. I have agnostic friends. Would I like for them to be Christian? Of course. But, like, I'm not going to shun you for not being a Christian. I'm not going
Yeah.
to push it on you. I'm not going to try to, like, hinder what you do. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And that's how it is in the outside world, apart from a cult.
Yeah.
Isaiah can be whatever his belief is. Mine can be mine. That person can be his. Of course, we might, if we're in a certain belief, might want people to be a part of ours, but we're not going to judge them. And they can still be our friends for having a different belief system. And
Hmm.
that's what's so nice about being outside of cults, because there's not the persecution complex or the complex of don't talk to these people, they're worldly. I mean, we can just be people, you know what I mean? And we can get along as a community. So thank you so much for coming on, Isaiah. This was awesome. For everybody that was watching, please like, share, and subscribe. Please also go follow Isaiah's channel. I'm going to be collabing with him, so you'll see it in the little circular icon bar. And then also social medias and stuff will be in the description. But thank you so much for coming on, Isaiah, and take care, everyone.
Thanks for having me.